Listen to me very carefully. So what you are watching right now is not just another political scandal. This is what happens when a man spends decades believing he is untouchable and suddenly realizes the walls are closing in from every direction. Donald Trump built his empire on branding, intimidation, spectacle, and chaos. He mastered the art of controlling headlines, controlling attention, and convincing millions of people that no matter what happened, he would always survive. But now the pressure is different. Now the legal system is moving in a way that even his closest allies never expected. And here's the part that should really wake you up. Reports claim Trump is allegedly discussing how he should appear during a possible perp walk, whether he should smile for the cameras, whether he should turn a criminal proceeding into another marketing campaign. Think about how insane that is. The man is potentially facing the biggest legal threat of his life, and he's allegedly focused on branding strategy that tells you everything. I don't care about your feelings. I care about the numbers, and the numbers don't lie. Federal pressure is rising. Public confidence is cracking. Political allies are becoming nervous. Institutions are moving. Markets hate instability, and instability is spreading across America tonight like gasoline on dry ground. Stop being a victim and pay attention. History is full of powerful men who believed the rules would never apply to them. Right before everything collapsed all at once. This analysis is worth thousands because I'm not here to sell you cheap outrage like the mainstream media. I'm giving you the cold, hard truth about power, leverage, collapse, and human behavior. Subscribe right now because winners study systems before they fail. Losers wait until the headlines explode and then pretend they never saw it coming. I don't care about your feelings. I care about whether you're smart enough to recognize history while it's unfolding live in front of your eyes. Listen to me very carefully. And the most dangerous thing that can happen to a powerful person is surviving too many scandals. After enough escapes, they stop respecting risk itself. That's exactly what appears to have happened with Donald Trump. Think about what's being reported right now. A former president allegedly discussing how he should look during a possible perp walk, whether he should smile, whether he should style his image correctly, whether he can turn a criminal investigation into another television moment. This is not normal behavior. This is somebody who spent decades learning that spectacle protects him better than silence ever could. And the terrifying part, for years it worked. The numbers don't lie. Trump survived bankruptcy scares, lawsuits, impeachment battles, investigations, media scandals, and political chaos that would have destroyed almost anybody else. Every single time he escaped consequences, the same lesson became reinforced in his mind. The rules don't apply to me. That mindset destroys people, and I've seen this happen in business over and over again. Somebody makes money during a booming market and suddenly thinks they're a genius. They start taking bigger risks. They stop respecting danger. They mistake survival for intelligence. They think they're invincible because nobody punished them early enough. Then one day reality arrives all at once and wipes them out overnight. That's why these Mar-a-Lago stories matter. Reports describe Trump allegedly acting as DJ at parties while the entire country waits to see whether legal consequences are finally arriving. He's playing music, entertaining guests, acting like a celebrity host while pressure builds around him from every direction. Why? Because attention has always been his survival mechanism. Trump understands modern media better than almost anybody in politics. He knows outrage creates headlines. Headlines create attention. Attention creates loyalty. Loyalty creates money. So instead of shrinking away from legal danger, he monetizes it. Fundraising emails go out. Supporters rally harder. The crisis becomes fuel. But there's a massive difference between surviving media outrage and surviving institutional pressure. One is political theater. The other involves judges, prosecutors, federal systems, and institutions that do not care about applause. Stop being a victim and understand the pattern. Every time somebody escapes consequences for too long, they start confusing momentum with permanence. That's when collapse becomes inevitable. Cash is trash when confidence disappears. Political power works exactly the same way as financial markets. Once institutions stop believing in you, the entire structure begins shaking very quickly. And that's why this moment feels different. For years, Trump's greatest strength was the perception that nothing could hurt him permanently. Critics attacked him, scandals exploded, investigations multiplied, and somehow he always stayed standing. That creates a psychological effect on supporters and opponents alike. Supporters begin believing he's unstoppable. Opponents begin believing accountability is impossible. Both sides become trapped inside the myth, but history proves that myths collapse suddenly. One day the empire looks invincible. The next day the cracks become visible everywhere at once. The numbers don't lie. Eventually every powerful figure reaches the point where branding can no longer overpower reality. And Trump may finally be approaching that moment now. What makes this even more dangerous is that Trump has always operated like a high-risk investor who believes volatility itself is a strategy. He creates chaos because chaos keeps everyone emotionally reactive. Reactive people stop thinking clearly. Reactive people stop analyzing numbers. They pick sides emotionally instead. That's how political brands become movements. But here's the cold, hard truth. Movements built entirely on emotion become unstable. The second reality starts pushing back harder than the branding machine can handle. And that's why tonight feels different. The media circus no longer feels fully controlled. The institutions no longer look hesitant. The pressure no longer looks temporary. And when powerful people realize they are losing control of the narrative, they become unpredictable. That's when history gets dangerous. Listen to me very carefully. And if you want to understand somebody's true character, don't watch them when they're comfortable. Watch them when pressure corners them. Trump's reaction pattern under pressure has been unbelievably consistent for years. Every single time a reporter asks a direct question about investigations, indictments, accountability, or corruption, the emotional shift happens instantly. Fake news, enemy of the people. Sit down. That's enough. He attacks, interrupts, humiliates, and tries to dominate the room emotionally. Why? Because aggressive personalities rely on control. The second control disappears, panic starts leaking through the cracks. I don't care about your politics. I care about behavioral patterns. Strong operators answer pressure with discipline. Weak operators answer pressure with emotional chaos. The numbers don't lie. Trump built his career on overwhelming opponents psychologically. In business, television, and politics, he learned that dominating the conversation often matters more than answering the question itself. So when pressure rises, his instinct is not reflection, it's escalation. That strategy works beautifully in entertainment. It even works in politics for a while. But legal systems are different. Judges do not care about crowd size. Prosecutors do not care about true social posts. Courtrooms operate on evidence, timelines, procedures, and institutional authority. You cannot scream your way out of paperwork. That's why this situation is so psychologically important. Trump thrives in chaos he controls, but institutional pressure removes his ability to dominate the environment completely. That's when emotional reactions intensify, and you can see it clearly in those confrontations with reporters. Somebody asks a direct question about investigations, and suddenly the tone changes immediately. He lashes out personally. He attacks the media. He reframes himself as the victim. Why? Because that strategy has protected him for decades. But here's the cold, hard truth. Emotional dominance stops working when institutions decide process matters more than spectacle. Stop being a victim and learn the lesson for your own life too. Weak people attack messengers instead of fixing problems. Weak investors blame markets instead of studying mistakes. Weak leaders create enemies instead of taking responsibility. Reality always collects the dead eventually. Trump supporters often see these outbursts as proof of strength. Critics see them as instability. But no matter where you stand politically, one fact is undeniable. The man built his identity around never appearing weak. And now the possibility of legal consequences threatens that identity directly. That's why every investigation becomes existential. Every headline becomes war. Every courtroom rumor becomes a battle for survival. This isn't just about law anymore. It's about image. And for people whose entire careers depend on image, losing control of perception feels like losing oxygen itself. The numbers don't lie. Public confidence collapses faster than almost anybody expects once the illusion of invincibility begins cracking, and once confidence breaks, everything changes. Think about the irony here. Trump spent years branding himself as the ultimate winner, the billionaire, the deal maker, the guy who could dominate rooms through sheer force of personality. But institutions are not impressed by personality forever. Eventually, systems begin demanding accountability instead of performance. And that's the trap aggressive personalities fall into. They believe intensity equals strength. It doesn't. Discipline equals strength. Emotional control equals strength. Precision equals strength. Anybody can yell. Anybody can insult reporters. Anybody can create chaos. But chaos is not leadership. Chaos is usually a sign that somebody is losing control behind the scenes. The market teaches this lesson brutally. Companies hide weakness with flashy marketing all the time. They overpromise. They distract investors. They attack critics, but eventually earnings arrive. Eventually debt arrives. Eventually reality arrives, and the numbers don't lie. That's why these public meltdowns matter. They're not random emotional moments. They're warning signals. They reveal what happens when somebody who built an empire on dominance suddenly realizes dominance. Might. That realization terrifies powerful people. Listen to me very carefully. When institutions decide to move aggressively against somebody powerful, events unfold unbelievably fast. That's what terrifies markets, not slow decline, sudden collapse. The reports surrounding this alleged instant arrest threat created exactly that kind of psychological shockwave. Midnight deadlines, federal marshals, tactical positioning, Secret Service coordination, helicopters over Palm Beach. Whether every detail proves accurate or not, the reaction itself tells you something critical. Confidence is fragile. And when confidence breaks, systems shake violently. Trump allegedly responded exactly the way many people expected, calling the situation fake news, attacking investigators, escalating rhetoric online, framing himself as the victim of a political operation. Same strategy, same playbook. Flood the environment emotionally before people can focus on the institutional reality unfolding behind the scenes. But here's the problem. Institutions hate unpredictability. Markets hate unpredictability. Governments fear instability because instability spreads faster than facts. That's why the imagery matters so much. A former president potentially facing direct federal confrontation at his own property is not normal American politics. Secret Service standing aside while federal authorities move in, tactical positioning around Mar-a-Lago, midnight deadlines. Those images hit people emotionally in ways that legal documents never can. The numbers don't lie. Optics shape confidence. Confidence shapes power. And once power begins cracking publicly, alliances shift unbelievably fast. This is exactly what happens during corporate collapses, too. One day, a massive company looks unstoppable. The next day, investors panic because banks stop trusting it. Suppliers panic. Employees panic. Markets panic. Suddenly, everybody realizes the confidence holding the structure together was weaker than they imagined. Politics works the same way. Trump's greatest weapon was always the image of inevitability, strength, dominance, survival, the perception that he always escapes. But if the public begins associating him with vulnerability instead of invincibility, the branding equation changes instantly. It's catastrophic for public figures built primarily on momentum. Stop being a victim and understand leverage. Real power does not come from social media followers or campaign rallies. Real power comes from institutional confidence. The second institutions stop protecting you, everything changes. Cash is trash when trust disappears, and history proves this repeatedly. Powerful figures look untouchable until suddenly they aren't. One day they dominate headlines, the next day they're trapped reacting to them. That's how quickly power shifts once the system moves aggressively against you. Now let's break down why this alleged arrest threat feels so historically explosive. First, urgency changes public psychology. Midnight deadlines create emotional pressure because people associate them with emergencies, not ordinary politics. Second, federal mobilization imagery changes the emotional temperature entirely. Helicopters, checkpoints, tactical positioning, those visuals create the sense that something extraordinary is happening. Third, institutional cooperation matters enormously. If federal agencies appear aligned operationally, public perception shifts from political theater to system-level action. Fourth, Trump's own rhetoric may worsen the situation. Every emotional response, every escalation, every aggressive social media post becomes another layer of public controversy. Fifth, global reaction amplifies uncertainty. Markets hate unpredictability because unpredictability destroys planning. Investors fear instability above almost everything else. Sixth, supporters and critics interpret events completely differently. One side sees persecution, the other sees accountability. That emotional divide creates enormous tension nationally. And seventh, the symbolism alone changes American political history forever. Whether people support Trump or despise him, nobody can deny the historical magnitude of a former president facing this level of legal and institutional pressure publicly. The numbers don't lie. America has entered territory nobody fully understands. And here's what should really concern you. Once political systems become emotionally unstable, rational thinking disappears fast. People stop analyzing evidence and start defending tribes. Media networks feed outrage because outrage generates ratings. Politicians escalate rhetoric because fear generates donations. Everybody profits from panic, except ordinary people. You're broke. And you don't even know it, because while political elites fight for power, average citizens absorb the economic and social damage. Markets freeze. Businesses hesitate. Confidence falls. Uncertainty spreads. That's the real cost of instability. The scary part is that once institutions begin accelerating publicly against powerful figures, there's no easy off-ramp anymore. Expectations rise. Public pressure intensifies. Media attention explodes. Every side becomes more emotionally invested. And that's when situations become combustible. And whether Trump ultimately survives politically or not, the system itself is being stress tested in ways America has never experienced before. Listen to me very carefully. Every empire collapses the same way, slowly at first, then all at once. For years, Trump's greatest political advantage was not policy, it was the perception of invincibility. Supporters believed he always survived. Critics believed he always escaped. Every scandal reinforced the same public myth. Trump cannot be stopped. Now that myth appears to be under the greatest pressure of his career, and when myths collapse, entire movements become unstable. I don't care about your feelings, I care about the numbers. Look at what's already happening. Supporters become more emotional, critics become more aggressive, media networks explode with nonstop outrage, international observers question American stability, markets react nervously to uncertainty. This is bigger than one politician now. That's what happens when a political figure becomes larger than the institutions surrounding him. Every legal escalation becomes a national stress test. Supporters see persecution, critics see accountability, institutions see risk, markets see instability. The numbers don't lie. That combination is combustible. And here's the lesson ordinary people completely miss. Stop building your worldview around personalities. Build it around systems instead. Personalities rise and fall constantly. Systems last longer. Winners adapt early. Losers emotionally attach themselves to collapsing narratives. Trump's rise was powered by momentum, outrage, confidence, branding, and relentless media domination. But momentum is not permanence. Every giant structure looks stable right before visible cracks begin spreading everywhere at once. That's true in business. That's true in politics. That's true in life. And now America may be watching the collapse of one of the most powerful political myths of the modern era in real time. The illusion that Trump could always overpower consequences may finally be colliding with institutional reality. And if that illusion breaks completely, the ripple effects will go far beyond one man. The Republican Party would face enormous internal chaos. Supporters would feel betrayed by institutions they no longer trust. Opponents would feel validated after years of frustration. Media divisions would intensify even further. That's why moments like this become dangerous socially. People stop thinking rationally once identity becomes involved. Politics turns tribal. Facts become secondary to emotion. Stop being a victim and learn the deeper lesson. Emotional loyalty is not strategy. Hero worship is not intelligence. Blind belief destroys people financially, politically, and personally. The numbers don't lie. Every powerful movement eventually faces the same question. Can it survive once the central myth holding it together begins collapsing? And nobody knows the answer to that question yet, but history gives us clues. Every major political collapse begins with disbelief. People cannot imagine the powerful falling until the fall becomes undeniable. Then suddenly everybody claims they saw it coming all along. That's human nature. People worship strength when it looks permanent and abandon it the second it looks vulnerable. And if Trump's image of invincibility fully cracks, the speed of the political shift could shock the entire country. Because power is not just about authority, power is about perception, and perception changes fast once fear enters the system. Listen to me very carefully. History punishes arrogance every single time. It punishes investors who think markets only go up. It punishes leaders who think rules only apply to other people. And it punishes ordinary people who ignore warning signs because facing reality feels uncomfortable. Trump built a movement on branding, dominance, spectacle, and momentum. For years, it worked brilliantly. But tonight should remind every single one of you that perception is not permanence. The numbers don't lie. Power shifts, momentum dies, systems change, and people who ignore reality always pay the highest price in the end. I don't care about your feelings. I care about whether you learn the lesson. Stop worshiping personalities. Study leverage. Study systems. Study incentives. Winners prepare before collapse happens. Losers scream at reality after it's already too late. So here's my question for you tonight. Are you somebody who studies history while it's happening, or are you just another emotional spectator waiting for the system to decide your future for you? Because the world is changing very fast right now. Political trust is collapsing. Institutions are being tested. Media outrage is consuming everything. And the people who survive moments like this are never the loudest people in the room. They're the disciplined people. The people who stay calm while everyone else panics, the people who understand that emotion clouds judgment and judgment determines survival. Cash is trash when fear takes over. Confidence matters. Preparation matters. Reality matters. The numbers don't lie. No empire lasts forever. No leader escapes pressure forever. And no system survives if people stop respecting reality itself. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Subscribe if you want cold, hard truth instead of propaganda. And remember this, winners face reality early. Losers wait until collapse becomes unavoidable. Don't be the last person in the room pretending the walls aren't shaking.